Next, we have our panel, and just let me put on the screen so that you can see who else is with us. Sudhir from Lenskart and Abhinav from Cars24, and Dharmesh remains with us again from CanCertain, as you just saw and heard. So I have a bunch of questions to ask Sudhir and to ask Abhinav, especially because you guys have been here for a little while now, and you are expanding aggressively from what I can see, and what the market trends look like. It looks like that you've established a solid base in the region, especially in the UAE, and you're looking to expand further. I mean, you must all be aware that the India and UAE, they signed a very broad trade agreement known as the CEPA fairly recently. And in light of those, we know that the government of India has a lot of priorities in terms of trade with the Middle East. But what do you think is some of the things that could be improved, which would help, Indian startups, or typically smaller Indian startups, to sort of leverage, this connection with UAE? The UAE and India, they signed a really large trade agreement, right, where they want to increase the trade to $100 billion in the next 5 years. But that is, again, very focused on trade, on stuff like gold and other commodities, etc. Do you think that there could be more impetus from the Indian government to sort of bridge, the two tech ecosystems a bit better? Because we're seeing a lot of diversions in some certain tech sectors, for example, crypto, right? So India is completely shutting it down, while Dubai last month they launched the virtual asset regulatory authority. So Indian crypto.
So I definitely think so. Yeah. I actually think that if you look at Southeast Asia, India, and the Middle East, right? I think India is perhaps potentially 4 or 5 years ahead of the Middle East at some level, and and maybe 2 or 3 years ahead of Southeast Asia also, right? Across in evolution and innovation and generally expansion of the space and business models, everything, right? And I think the Middle East and India can really work together in terms of Indian entrepreneurs and Indian companies coming here to guide more Middle East entrepreneurs, to guide the government on building the ecosystem, right? Rather than the UAE government doing it themselves.
Yeah.
Right. Or even Saudi. And I think Saudi is trying to do that, but perhaps not enough. And I think we should stop looking at, these governments should stop looking at the US for inspiration, because the markets are so different that they're irrelevant, and not look at China for reasons I think they know best. Right. Yeah. And I think that I think it's high time that we realize that the real heroes and market swayers are actually the Indian market.
Yeah, I mean, there is no doubt.
I don't see enough of that, and that could be for a variety of reasons, both reasons from India and reasons from the Middle East. On your other points on decisions around business models in crypto, and those are very government decisions, which I don't think the startup ecosystem can get involved in, because those could be for a variety of reasons, right?
Yeah. I mean, I use crypto just as an example because there's such a large diversion.
Yeah, but in India, the view on crypto seems to change every 2-3 weeks anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. I would actually add to this, right? So, India has this advantage of scale, right? The market is massive. So a lot of development in India gets justified for the scale it is addressing, right? And a lot of lack of development on the technology side in UAE is because there's a low scale. So, I think one classic example is banking. They still don't have an instant transfer. There is no instant interbank transfer. There are still wallets missing here. There's still UPI sort of technologies that are missing here. So I think those are, very, very critical areas that can really benefit UAE specifically, and the small GCC countries. I would still keep Saudi ahead of, say, UAE in the financial technology revolution. But I think those are some very, very critical areas where UAE can take a lot of inspiration, support, technology transfers. and actually get a lot of development underway. We can move several years ahead in literally a matter of months. So a lot of technology infrastructure and areas that require scale for development are present in India and absent in UAE. So I think that is one specific area that I would very strongly urge both governments to look at, and I think they can both benefit from each other. The UAE has low scale but high convenience premium. India has high scale but low convenience premium. I think a handshake of both could bring in a great answer.
But from my experience, and I can compare the experience of our Indian operation with the UK, and in terms of expansion into the Middle East, what I've seen from the Indian government, which is going back to your question about signing trade deals. Signing trade deals is great, but I think the government in India need to do far more to facilitate and then facilitate and promote these trade deals, especially to startups, to export that technology and that knowledge. That's a big difference I've seen between the UK government and the Indian government. Whereas from CanCertain, the support we've had from the UK government has been fantastic. They've given grants, they've invited us to diplomatic receptions, etc. Made introductions, but when we've asked the same from the Indian government, there's not been that support. The second part I would say is I think India still need to, as big a country it is and as developed as it may seem to other countries, they need to develop that business infrastructure still to facilitate international trade. For example, one of our issues is the time it's taken to get samples out of India is taking 4 days just to leave the country. And there doesn't seem to be that emphasis on this is international trade. This is, I think there's some mentality within the government, and please forgive me if I'm upsetting anybody, it's not my intention, but I think there needs to be more emphasis on expansion and promoting the fantastic companies in India, outside India, and doing everything that they can do. Because signing a trade deal is great, it's a photo opportunity, but it's what happens after that you do to encourage everything.
Right, which is why we find the trade deal, the CEPA signed with UAE so interesting, is because yes, there is a lot of focus on trade, your usual commodity goods and commodities trade, but they are trying. I mean, yesterday or day before, they launched an online hub for Indian companies to explore opportunities in the UAE. And last week, the UAE launched a similar online hub as well. So there have been some attempts by them. I don't think that the government is not aware of this problem. But as you know, in India, it just takes some time to get it running. And I think with CEPA, they are trying to sort of address some of these issues, but let's wait and see.